I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Allison Andrikokis. I am one of the co-presidents of the Addison Teachers Association. I'm a 6th grade social studies teacher at Indian Trail. I've been in Addison for the past 14 years of my teaching career, and very happy to be here, part of the ASD4 community. And we're just really happy to have everyone here tonight for this candidate Q&A. I'm just gonna run down just a little bit of the process, and Amanda Zarrell, my co-president, our other co-president, will be explaining how things are working too, and then we're gonna let the candidates take the floor, because that's what this is really about. It's about them and getting in, these times where we can't all gather, although, fingers crossed, it's getting better, that we can, have people together virtually. So if you want to imagine yourself, in a place where you're having food, we're all together, that's ideally where this would be, if we weren't, restricted from doing that so much. And really what we want for this evening is for the candidates just to be able to share some of their vision and answer some community questions. As an organization, we started this process of looking at candidates back in January, and our main goal was to look at, giving support to candidates and looking for collaboration and communication and transparency. And these 4 individuals we felt had a vision for that really felt with something that we saw a need for within our own organization. And so that's why they're here with us tonight. And we're really excited that they are, and that they're here to answer those questions. So we're going to let them introduce themselves, and then Amanda will be the questioner, if you will, the question master for the evening. And so she'll be providing candidates with the questions that have been submitted prior to tonight. Did I miss anything? I think I got everything. Awesome. All right, so I'm gonna let Taso, if you don't mind, you go ahead and introduce yourself, give a brief introduction.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank the ATA for helping organize this forum, and all the volunteers that have been going out and spreading the word for us on our behalf. So I truly appreciate all that effort. My name is Taso Triantafillos. I'm running for the Addison School Board. If some of you remember me, I served on the board between 2013 and 2017. I have 4 kids in Addison. 2 are in District 4 and 2 are in District 88. Just like most parents out there, I'm just as concerned about getting our kids back into school and focusing on what's truly important to us, and that's obviously putting our kids first and getting them back into the classrooms, all students back in classrooms. So a little bit about me and my background. I'm a CEO of a cybersecurity company based out of Chicago. Our main objective and focus is obviously preventing cyber attacks for private and government. So I have a very good focus and experience background with technology. So I'm pretty excited about sharing that with our school district, our classrooms, our students, making sure that they're being prepared for the future, and that is in technology. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Taso. Ed Castillo, if you don't mind introducing yourself.
So my name is Eduardo Castillo. I'm a resident of Addison. I have 3 daughters. 2 of them go to Fullerton School. 1 goes over to Indian Trail. I've lived in Addison for about 8 years now. I'm involved in the Fullerton PTA. My wife does most of the work, but I help out from time to time. I set up events. Before COVID, if any family remembers, I was pretty much at every event, volunteering my time, making the kids, baskets, whatever was needed. I wanted to help. I do work as a sergeant at the DuPage County Sheriff's Office. In about 30 days, I'll be there 13 years. My role there is to supervise the community resource part of it. And one of my big things with COVID that I've had a chance, and I haven't really talked about it. I'm working with DuPage United. I'm working with the NAACP. I'm working with groups in the community on communication with law enforcement, because as you guys all remember, law enforcement was getting reassessed. There was things going on in the world, and the community wanted change. So I'm a big part of that change, and we're working on a class. The reason I got involved is there's a lot of meetings that I either attended or that I saw online, and I felt like the board members were not all the leaders that we elected them to be. There was only a select few. And you know, anybody watching this, please go back before COVID and during COVID. Mr. Daniels, who's not running, was probably one of the more vocal board members. And then there's 3 board members that pretty much do all the talking. I feel as a board, you need to be a leader to fairly represent the people that voted you into that position and to give the teachers and the students the best education possible. So that's a little bit about me and why I'm running.
Thanks, Ed. And then Dan, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Dan Medina. I'd like to start off by thanking the ATA and members of the community here today for joining us. Like I said, my name is Dan Medina. I have 2 children, one a first grader at Stone, and the other one is going to be a kindergartner in the fall at Stone as well. I'm a firefighter, paramedic, and a fire inspector currently in the Fire Prevention Bureau here in Addison with our local fire department. One of the reasons why I chose to run is I've attended recently this past year through the COVID remotely, pretty much all the board meetings, and noticed a strong disconnect, obviously, information wise, not getting out as I felt to the community. So that's one of the reasons why I chose to run. Felt that there was that real big disconnect from the board to the community. So that's what I want to bring to the table, is to reestablish that connection from the board to the community, and get that message out there to everyone involved out there in our community. So thank you for having us today.
All right, thanks, Dan. And then Chris Bollig, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yep, thank you so much. Best for last. So hi, everyone. I'm Chris Bollig. I feel like we've all told our stories a lot, but for any of you who haven't heard about me yet, I'm a relatively new Addison resident. I moved here in October of 2019. Actually, part of the reason I moved to Addison was the school district. So I lived in Streamwood. My son, who is now a 2nd grader, had already started a dual language program there. And my whole intention was to get closer to the city. I work downtown, but find another school that had a dual language program. And so Addison was kind of the perfect solution for that. So my son is in 2nd grade. I have a daughter who's a kindergartner. They are very excited to go back to school next week in person, which will be the first time for them. In terms of myself, I'm an executive at a global education company that provides workforce solutions. I oversee a team of about 200 people. I manage a very large budget, just over $17 million. I'm also on the board of a nonprofit based in Chicago called Changing Worlds. They run arts programming mostly in CPS, but it's specifically geared towards helping students improve their learning, but also affirm their own identities and enhance cross-cultural understanding. I've found that to be very rewarding work. And again, it's a different type of board experience, but it certainly is a governing body. And I've been a part of that board for about 4 years. I would say my primary motivation for running is, again, coming to town and joining board meetings. I'll be honest, my first notice was that there were no women on the board. And so that certainly got me thinking about it. But just generally, I think what some of the gentlemen already spoke about was the lack of engagement that I saw from current board members in board meetings, especially when we're talking about things like the pandemic and remote learning and how we're going to handle some of these very, very challenging situations. You know, you read in the news about board meetings in other towns that went in for 4 or 5 hours, right? Because the conversation was so robust. And I just did not see that. There was minimal engagement. And I think that's a shame. I think it's the obligation and responsibility of the board to ask hard questions, to hear the community feedback, but then again, just also engage in that discourse in those public meetings, so that we know they're taking it seriously and the community has an opportunity to hear kind of what the considerations are and how those decisions are being made. So that's what motivated me to run. And I will also thank the ATA for putting this on and for all the hard work that you've done. And I know we're all very excited to answer another set of questions for you all, because this is what we like to do.
All right, thank you, Amanda. I think we can take it away.
All right, perfect. So my name's Amanda Zerl. I'm the other co-president, I was gonna say co-host, the other co-president for the Addison Teachers Association. I'm a speech language pathologist at Lincoln, and I've been in the district for 12 years. So for anyone that was able to come to our last Q&A, it's going to work very similar. I'm going to read the questions that were submitted ahead of time. If you have any additional questions, you can ask them in the chat, and if we have time, we can ask those. I just ask that if you send it in the chat, just send it to me. Nobody else is checking the chat, even though it will let you send direct messages to some people. So any questions you have, please send to me. So the first question that we have tonight is actually a question that was submitted by multiple members of the ATA. Many people have seen on social media and other communications that are out there that many have voiced the concern that you will not be objective board members because you are endorsed by the teachers union. There have also been comments made that it's a conflict of interest for you to be endorsed by us when you will be negotiating our contracts. So I would like to just kind of go around and have everyone give an answer for this. What is your response to the public about that? And whoever wants to start can jump in.
All right, so I'll start. So there's nothing wrong with endorsements. Endorsements could come from anybody, as we have seen it. Endorsements means you just support somebody. It could be for various reasons. I think in this situation, people are taking the context out of the situation. The only thing that I can promise the Addison teachers is mutual respect and understanding. To say that there's some kind of gain or some kind of deal or some kind of maybe illegal thing that would be going on is an insult to anybody that has ever participated in a union. If you go and you talk to members of the community, this is a disrespect to the firefighters, the police, plumbers, welders that have all endorsed. And these unions are in place for rights. If we didn't have these unions in place, a lot of companies would be taking advantage of these workers. So the only thing we owe the teachers is the respect and understanding that when they need supplies, when they have a problem at the schools, we will hear and we will take their concerns and respond accordingly. Anything else, at least on my response, is being taken out of context. And a lot of it is, if this was any other organization and most of the employees were unhappy with management, there would be a change of management. And I think I said at the League of Women Voters, I think that's what's happening here. I think when you have people that do not feel like coming to work is something they enjoy, or it's not something that they look forward to, we have to look at why. What resources can we give them? What can we do? And there's actually studies that show you could pay people a lot of money, and that doesn't mean they're gonna love their job. There's people out there that make a lot of money and they hate their job. It's all about how you treat them. So I appreciate the support of the ATA.
I'd also like to add that my last two election cycles, I'd say in 2013 and also in 2017, I actually was looking forward to the ATA's endorsement, and I didn't get it. So I did ask for that endorsement back then, and that wasn't a problem for anybody. I won my first election and served on 4 years for the school board successfully, and that was pretty good. Nobody complained about it, but all of a sudden this is a highly contested race and it becomes a big issue. So a lot of individuals that run for office, whether it's a school board or the mayor's office or any other elected position, is always looking forward to an endorsement that they want, an endorsement that they respect, and an endorsement that they want to work with, right? So every public official has always had an endorsement from one group or another. In fact, I know many politicians that have actually gotten endorsements from even the IEA at a state level. So this is no different than any other election. We look for the endorsements that we feel confident, comfortable in working with. We are not puppets. We have our own train of thought. We actually think on our own, and we chew gum on our own. My point is that we are independent individuals. You're going to vote for us individually, not as 4 people. But I think these 3 other individuals, Dan, Ed, and Chris, are amazing individuals to serve on the school board for Addison. So I think the ATA realized that and decided to endorse these individuals because they're qualified. They're qualified to serve for the village of Addison, for the taxpayers, for the parents that are desperately fighting to get their kids back into class.
All right, so I'll go next. And for me, it's all about character, right? There are certainly people in the world, probably in this community, who operate with a quid pro quo mentality, right? Like, I do something to get something. But that can be the case between any person and any other entity, right? So it could be a union, it could be a supplier to the district, it could be an individual who has some power to help influence the election, right? Like, that can exist anywhere. And really what matters is the integrity of the person that you're talking about, right? And I think when you talk about the board, it's critically important that you have people that you believe don't operate in that way. They just don't have that mentality, because they're going to do then what is truly best for the community. And, the other thing I've been thinking about with this is just like, what is the end game, right? So let's say that the endorsement by the ATA has led me to decide that I want to maximize teacher salaries above all else. Well, that means we have to spend less elsewhere. And I have children in the district, and I truly, forget my kids, I am concerned about all of the children in the district. Taking an endorsement and then giving something back to the union to get an unpaid board seat, it's not even quite clear to me, why someone thinks that anyone would be willing to give up their integrity or do something that they didn't believe in to secure this seat, right? Again, it's unpaid. I'm looking at committing many, many, many hours each month in making myself a really successful board member. And so the end game doesn't make sense to me, but beyond even that, getting to know the candidates and really getting a feel for who do you trust to make decisions with integrity and act within the best interest of the community, that's what you need to do. So I would just encourage everyone to, again, continue to get to know us and talk to us so that you can make that decision.
I'll finish this up here. I feel like this question has been asked and answered several times, but we'll touch base on it again here. So when we were approached, all of us, one of the questions that was asked, and I believe I answered it in our interview process, was something along this line. And the only thing that I guaranteed the teachers was to be an ear and to be respectful to them if elected. And that's what I'm committing and telling the community here, is that I will be an ear to them. I will be a respectful member when it comes time for negotiations, when it comes time to listen to their problems. I come from a line of work where we don't circumvent the chain of command. So if there's an issue personnel wise or anything like that, that still goes up the right chain of command and the right appropriate channels. So that's still going to go through the proper chain. That's going to go through the superintendent's office. That's going to go through the proper administrative procedures. That's not going to go through the board and circumvent the system because we got the ATA's endorsement. That's just not how I operate. That's not how we operate on the fire department. That's not how we operate in law enforcement. That's not how we operate anywhere else. in corporate America, you still have a chain of command. So to have any kind of outside sources put out there that we would be doing otherwise is just false and misinformation, which is a term that's been being thrown out there quite frequently lately. So just to put it out there in context, that's not how I operate. And I will only be guaranteeing one thing, which is to be a ear and be respectful when it comes time to dealing with any kind of teacher issues. And I'm pretty sure that we're not always going to agree. Almost positive we're not always going to agree. It's just the way that I foresee things moving forward. But I will definitely be able to listen and be an ear and be respectful when it comes time to conducting business.
I'd like to add one more thing. Years ago, I attended the ATA fundraiser, and I did receive an award for one of the worst bowlers at the fundraiser event. So that didn't influence my decision or my attitude or my approach to the teachers. I still respect them, even though they call me the worst bowler as a board member. So it was a good time. I look forward to the next one. Up my game.
Thank you. The next question was submitted by Catherine Purtle, which I do not see her here. So hopefully she's able to watch. We are recording this and we will post it again from our Facebook page and on YouTube. So hopefully she's able to watch it on there. But the question was, is it necessary to adopt the extreme policies of critical race theory and sex ed in K through 12?
So I'll say critical race theory is a very, very complex philosophy, theory, I guess you'd say, that examines the law as it relates to race, right? And so I'm dealing with a Stone School student who's 7, who I just realized doesn't know how to tie his shoes, which is probably my fault. I guess it's something you don't learn in school. But so no, I don't think that critical race theory is something that is an appropriate topic for District 4 students. However, I will say that I think it's very important to educate students on the fact that we have a diverse community and this is a diverse world. And it's important to have an understanding and a respect for cultures that are different than our own. So, you know, and I'm taking the first part of this question and then I'll get back to sex ed. So again, I just want to be very clear that critical race theory, which is specifically what the question was about, I think my answer to that is no, but I want to be very transparent in the fact that, you know, our kids need to understand the reality of the world around them, different cultures, different types of people, and the fact that things like discrimination and bias exist, because that's how we're going to prepare them to be, live in an inclusive community, right? And be kind to each other and at a minimum be tolerant of each other. On the second part related to sex ed, again, I think that with that label, I mean, do I think that my 5- and 7-year-old need sexual education courses? No, absolutely not. But I do think that there are some topics that I would consider to fall more in the realm of health that are appropriate for them, right? And so we talk about understanding personal space and again, respect for other people's requests or things like that. I mean, there are topics that children even that young, I think, need to learn about. I don't consider that sex ed. So that may come down to a difference in definition. So again, technically I would say no to sex ed in terms of K through our 8th graders. But there are relevant topics for students at all levels. And I think that we should be teaching those things. And I don't know what, I'll let the gentleman disagree with anything I said or if they have anything to add, but that's my take.
No, I think you did a great job responding to that question. You know, the fact is that personally, in my family, we've always treated people as individuals based on their character. And we certainly understand that everybody goes through different life experiences and we have to respect that as well. So that could be an opportunity for us to obviously get a better understanding of people come through different walks of life. But the sex ed piece, I think that's it's an age appropriate discussion, and it's also up to the parents when they feel it's appropriate for them to have the discussion. I think there's a couple different things we're talking about when it comes to sex ed, and that's what's appropriate, what's inappropriate. So leave it at that.
So I'm probably going to get some heat from this, but I say what's on my mind and I stick with it. Whenever stuff like this comes, especially from the state, transparency needs to be one of the things. Input from the community needs to be one of those things. I think when we get these type of topics, community engagement is crucial, and it goes all the way from the local school board all the way to our state senators. So I think they should reach out to the constituents. They need to reach out to the voters, and they need to reach out to the families and see what they think about these things. A lot of laws aren't popular. A lot of things aren't popular. I can speak firsthand. Law enforcement and some of the things they're trying to do, I disagree with, and I wish they would get more input. It's the same thing with these topics. These are topics that are very important to families. These are topics that families might want to do in the privacy of their own home. There's also families that appreciate the assistance with this. I think the input needs to be heard going forward. So when it does come out and it does have to be passed along at the school board level, we have a pretty good understanding of how we're going to implement this, what are the options, and is there going to be any expense that we have to do in addition to teaching it? Do we have to hire extra personnel? If that personnel does have to be hired, how long is this program going to go for, and what are the changes that we foresee in the future? So just something to keep in mind, that we're working on transparency with governments, and that's what we should be doing.
All right, Dan, I know you got kicked out for a minute there. I'm not sure if you had anything you wanted to add here. Otherwise, we can go to the next question. Sorry.
We can go.
Okay, I'll go ahead. So the next question is actually directed to Mr. Medina and Mr. Castillo. It was submitted by Vivi Frantidakis. You had mentioned either verbally or in writing in regards to backroom deals or making sure that there are no communications outside of meetings and no deals made before coming out. Can you explain what you meant by that, and what proof do you have of something like that occurring?
I'll go first. So if anybody were to go online, you can do a search. Right here in our own county, Naperville has a lawsuit right now that is happening where there's about a dozen parents that are suing the school board and the superintendent. They're alleging that there were meetings held in violation of the Meetings Act. So this came out 2 days before I spoke at the League of Women Voters. And yes, I will not make any backdoor deals. And I don't know if I'm going to pronounce her last name wrong, but if Viv is here, I actually had a very good discussion with your husband in person, and I explained to him my answer, and he agreed, and he understood. He said he understood. So I stick by my statements that yes, if I'm elected, I will not be doing any backdoor deals. There will not be anything that insinuates there's any backdoor deals. And I mentioned this to Zach, and Jeremiah was there also. I didn't accuse them directly. I didn't accuse anybody on the board, but the way the meetings have been going, current events and the pandemic, I refuse to be a part of something like that going forward. So that's my answer.
So you are absolutely correct. My literature does state that I would end any backroom deals. And the truth of the matter is this: I can neither confirm nor deny that any backroom deals are in place or that they're not in place. And the reason for that is because meetings occur in closed session, as rightfully they should occur. And the board comes out and they proceed to vote yes. I second. Any discussion? and move on. So it leads myself and the community with no further information. And that just to me is completely unacceptable. There needs to be a discussion. There needs to have some information so that the community does not feel like they're being hoodwinked, like decisions have already been made, and that they're left out of the information. So what I am saying with that statement is, if that's the common practice, and if that's the way that this board likes to do that kind of information and or lack thereof, that's not how I would conduct business. I will be that type of board member to come out and ask the questions during does anybody have any discussion. I would like to have that discussion. I would like to have the information given out so that the community knows what's going on. I said this the last time. A lot of boards across the country where you see this in municipal boards, when it comes to mayoral incidents, when it comes into any kind of political board you can think of. You know, we put a item number XYZ 1, 2, 3, 4, and you give it a name, and everybody is just supposed to know what that is, without any kind of description behind it, or very little description, maybe a 1-2 sentence synopsis, and everybody's supposed to know what it is. Oh, it came from the appropriations committee. Oh, so it's got to be about money. Well, we're good, and we move on. And the idea behind it is that we don't want to be here all night. I'm sorry. If elected, and if a board meeting takes us till 10 o'clock at night, yeah, no one wants to be there till 10 o'clock at night. But if that's the business that we're being elected to do, is to be there till 10 o'clock at night, then we have to be there till 10 o'clock at night. It is what it is. That's what we were put there to do, is to make those hard decisions and to be there to do the right thing. We're there for the kids, and we have to do the right thing. So yes, I stand by my statement and saying that I would not be a part of that type of business moving forward.
I forgot to add. So part of I went right into the Naperville thing, but part of the problem that I saw on my end was I was trying to get information on what was going on. So I filled out a Freedom of Information form, and I said at the last meeting, I filled out that form. I sent it into Mr. Wortman. Mr. Wortman responded that it was denied. So I asked for communication on the superintendents and board members. I was rejected with that information, and it needed to be narrowed down. And they also advised that they would not be releasing emails as they were personal information. That's still pending with the Attorney General, but that's similar to what's going on in Naperville. They were also refused information. So there's nothing to hide. This is stuff that affects our children. This is stuff that affects our communities. I don't know what would be so personal or secretive that a FOIA request would be denied, but you know, I'm more than welcome to share it. I'm more than welcome to post it. Like I said, I'm all about transparency, and you guys can see for yourselves the information I got and the about 2-page response that I got from probably an attorney on the reasoning why this FOIA request was being denied. So.
Okay, thank you. The next question is for Mr. Medina. Again, this was also submitted by Vivi Frangidakis. At the League of Women's Voters Forum, you may mention that you didn't have access to the school's budget. Were you aware that this is public information that could easily be looked up online?
Yes, I'm vividly aware that that information is available online. And I believe my statement was I did not have that information in front of me at the time, but thank you for providing that information to us after the fact. And we did have a chance to look at it. Thank you.
And Dan, if I can add, you know, one of the things that I'll actually say, when I was getting ready to talk to the ATA about the endorsement, I pulled up the district's school report card right from the state. And I like to think of myself as a fairly intelligent person. And I found the report like slightly hard to read. Like it's just, there's a lot of different terms in there. There's so many different metrics. It took me a minute to figure out like why we didn't have some of a certain area reported on. And I think that's a good example of something along with the budget where we just have to be real about the fact that those are very difficult materials for most of our community members to be able to read and understand, right? And so in my mind, and I know it's a lot of work, wouldn't it be great if we provided some kind of like 1 to 3 page document that called out the highlights for people in layman's terms for important publications like that, right? So like, here's the budget as published, which again, I don't blame community members. That stuff can be challenging to understand. Now here's just a summary of the things, of the highlights and the things we think are important for people to know. Maybe the community would say that they wouldn't find that helpful. But I do think, and especially as I've gone around town and I've talked to lots of folks, that does seem to be like something that would be of interest. So I completely agree. The budget's clearly publicly available on the website. I would hope that we could do a bit more in making it accessible for community members to really understand what's going on.
Okay,
Essentially, what
thank
you're saying is it'd be great if it was posted in 5th grader language, right?
Right.
Right. And by the way, that's how I get my CFO to provide me the reports in 5th grader language, so I can consume it, understand it, where we're at.
Yeah, because again, people want the information. Like that's what people want to understand what's going on, but you have to help them. And it's not about spoon feeding people or even like dumbing it down is not right. It's just making it accessible. I think that's how I would describe where we have some key opportunities.
So I'm going to say one thing, and I think that, and I'm not going to run to anybody's defense, but I think there's an opportunity for us to improve on how we report certain things. I think the school district John and team have done the requirement, right? They fulfill the requirement from the state and what our policies call for as far as posting documents, making them available for the public, that sort of thing. So they've done the requirement. I think what you're asking for is let's go above and beyond what the requirement is calling for, and that's making it very accessible for all community members. If you have electronic means, or maybe you don't have internet, maybe you don't have a computer. I know that Ed hates computers, for example. But my point is that there's ways of delivering that and letting people know where we're currently at through other means.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. The next question was submitted by Esther Munoz. Do you think the district is ready to have the students back in class?
No, and I'll start off why. So I'm happy they're going back to class. Yes, we should be getting them back to class as soon as possible, but there's a lot of things that haven't been considered. And if there's any board members on here, feel free to take this and do something with it if you can in the next couple of weeks, or even in the future. Anybody that lives anywhere in the area knows that with the weather getting nicer, people are driving very fast. People have not been slowing down, especially in the school zones. We are sending our children back to school with these drivers not aware that maybe school's back in session, maybe they're not from the area. We do have a very large area of Addison that's dedicated to factories. We have people running late all the time. We should be talking to the Addison police and making sure that they're increasing patrols, making sure that the public knows that school is back in session and they're going to be doing patrols for people passing the school buses, distracted driving, anything that would be a danger to other motorists and our children. So that's something that we should be working on now. That's something that the board should have been doing already. I know in my employments, usually we do 2 weeks of what we call zero tolerance, where we have no tolerance for people that pose a danger to our students. We usually write a lot of tickets and we educate the public that school's back in session and you need to slow down. The other thing is, at the last meeting, the board put all these numbers showing how financially responsible everything was. And we get a letter that if you owe any fees, so if you have a child that checked out a library book and he owes the school $15, I don't know how they would figure out how much the child owes. You know, they're probably charging him interest, you know, during this pandemic. So if this child and his family owe $30, they can't sign up to go back to school. So now you have possibly a family who maybe suffered job loss, a family who's struggling financially. They're trying to get their child back into school and they can't go back because they have to pay back money on an overdue book. So these are also things that need to be taken care of. And we had a lot of downtime during this pandemic to work these things out. One of the board members told me, well, why don't you come to us with these ideas and we'll take care of it? And my response to him was, that's your job as the board. I can't be doing the job for you. That's your job as board members. You guys have to go out and do this. I could give you input, but I'm not on the board. You know, that's what you signed up for and got elected for. So yes, I'm very happy. And I think our children should go back to school safely. But I also think there's a lot of things we're missing. One thing that came up is Route 53 is a very busy street. I pulled people on state highways, sometimes going up to 90, 100 miles an hour. We make some of our students cross these streets because it's a burden financially to the school district. My opinion on that is no child is worth getting injured or hurt over money. If we have the room, or even if we don't have the room, if we could add a bus route and it costs the district a little bit of money, I think that would be the right thing to do to ensure they get to school safely and return home safely.
I mean, I'll just say, I think from my perspective, and Amanda, I think the question is, do we think the district is ready for students to go back to school, right? Did I get it right? I mean, you know, my honest answer is it's hard to say. When I think about the last board meeting, and I'm trying to think now, am I blocking something out? But, you know, I can only assume yes, because I don't know that we had a robust discussion of what has been done. I mean, there's certain, like in the emails that we get, you know, there certainly is some content, but, you know, I haven't heard anything publicly shared about, we have these specific challenges and here's what we're going to do about them. So, you know, honestly, I would have to assume that we're ready to go. That's what I could say. I would say as a parent, I feel very safe sending my children back to school next week. I trust that. And so I think that's where I'm at with it.
You know, I'm going to add sort of a little bit what Chris said and what Ed, maybe I don't take this the wrong way, but I do think our schools are ready to go back in session. I do think that hopefully I pray that we're thinking about all these things, like reinforcing the speed zones in our schools. Working closely with Addison Police Department to make sure that there is a zero tolerance policy in place. That started weeks ago to prepare the school district and everybody in the community to be cautious when they're driving past schools. It's been such a long time since we've seen a kid around a school, and we got to get back into getting used to that for all of us, for all our sake. And I think that we need to get our kids back into class, back in school now. So we better be ready. That's all I have to say. I think we're scheduled to go back starting Monday, with the exception of Wednesdays, of course, which I don't understand, but we're starting Monday.
So here's the thing. So public safety is it's my thing, right? So I agree with Taso 100%. We should be getting our kids back to school. No disagreement there. What I am saying though is we're sending our kids and our children back into the real world. The real world, and I'm going to be honest here, the real world is a dangerous place, right? There's gun violence going on constantly all over the country, all over the world. What have we done to prepare our kids and staff for active shooter drills? What are we going to do with active shooter drills? You can't take all the kids, shut off the lights and put them in the corner. We have COVID to keep in mind. I just think that a lot more planning should have gone into the little details, especially with safety. Because, I hate for a tragedy to happen anywhere with any child, but the reality is it doesn't even have to be danger to the students. It doesn't have to be a shooting at a school. It could be somebody in the neighborhood that's wanted and it's dangerous. How are we going to implement the safety with 6 weeks left? If somebody at the school board, somebody's here, please reach out to the Addison Police Departments. By no means is this a negative statement about the Addison Police Departments, but this is what I refer to. We need to work with these other agencies. We need to work with the fire district. What are we going to do when we do these drills? So are we not going to do the drills because of COVID, or are we going to do the drills in a safe manner? I don't know if Dan could answer this question. I hate to put him on the spot, but have you guys done anything with the schools that would say, hey, this is what we're going to do in a fire drill, in a tornado drill, and how we're going to do it safely? On our end, on the law enforcement side, some schools are starting to reach out, and I don't know if Addison has or hasn't, but we need to work together on this.
Dan,
So
has anybody reached out?
I can attest to this. On the fire department side, yes, we have been since the first child entered the hybrid program. We have been performing fire drills and things of that nature, evacuation drills that would encompass the fire department's involvement. However, they have been modified to accommodate social distancing. So they're not your typical full complete evacuations. For some schools, we've been doing them staggered just to meet the requirement of getting the ones who are new to the school buildings evacuated and through the process hearsay, so that they are understanding of how to evacuate a building safely, how to, what the bell sounds like, how, which exit is it closest to them, and if there's an issue that going on with that. The problem also persists is that we haven't been able to do our public safety education programs in these schools, whether remote or in person, just because there is no accommodation for the day. It's, and I agree with this. It's more important to get the core curriculum versus our program in at this moment. I am in complete agreement with that at the time, and that's coming from myself, a public safety professional in the matter. But as far as going back to the evacuation stuff, we have been working on the fire department side. We have been working with them on that front. Moving forward, we do have some full-scale evacuation drills planned at some of the schools, and we have been reaching out to some of the other local principals to get the rest of them scheduled and figured out once their numbers were set. So we do have some communication coming in from the local principals at some of the outlying schools that we have not heard from already. Some of them had them scheduled all year round already. We're just moving dates around. So so that on my front, should I say, is kind of already been in the works and or fine tuning. So I'm not too concerned about that from my front, but I am concerned about the APD or police involvement. And that's not to say that they haven't been contacted. I don't know on that front. So I don't want to put any kind of negative notion out there and say that they haven't or anything like that. I don't know on that front.
And is that for all schools in our
All
district?
schools. Yes, all ASD4, yeah, and including the high school as well. Yeah.
Cool.
And so I think I would say I'm trying to get better at this campaigning thing, right? Like I'm thinking about the question that's going to come back to us next, right? And what I've heard is we should reach out and ask these questions, right? And I think that there just needs to be a reality of you have 4,000 families who all want this information. And so putting it upon individual parents to reach out and ask these questions where then that response is not available to the entire community is just not effective, right? And I saw it a lot earlier in the year, I think, when Superintendent Langton very graciously said, everyone can email me with your questions, right? And I emailed them and I got a very prompt response. But then that doesn't go to everybody. So then parents were sharing the responses that they got on social media to try to help spread the information. And that's just something that we need to, at the top level, just do it more effectively And I'm tired of hearing myself say active listening sessions, but that's like a concept that I really believe in, where rather than asking folks to individually email, let's just do, again, for now, Zoom calls, but in the future, like big sessions where folks can get together and ask questions and hear the answers that everyone else has been given. And we can broadcast those and record those. And, you know, it's more time, it's more work, but that is how we will consistently get information out to all the families who want it. And to me, that's a big shift in how we need to operate. Is don't ask individual people to reach out to you. You need to push that content out so that it's readily accessible.
Thank you. And on that note, we did get one question in the chat from Tina Siskoff. Would you bring open public dialogue to board meetings? Currently, the board president reads the blue cards and addresses none of the questions, concerns.
If I may. So, yes, the issue is, yes, I am in agreement with an open dialogue scenario. The problem is that there has to be a mutual respect from the community engaging in that dialogue. And a lot of times what happens is that the community, as well as sometimes members of the board, and I'm not mentioning or trying to put blame on any one particular board member. I'm talking in boards in general, across the nation. What happens is that they turn into screaming matches, and that mutual respect gets lost. The message trying to get across gets lost, and I think that's how this blue card scenario initially got started. Is that there was some kind of discord or some kind of issue occurred where there was a loss of communication or respect
Decorum.
somewhere along the lines. Yeah. Thank you. And that's how come this became kind of the norm or a better solution. I think the better way to move towards some kind of happy medium would be to maybe answer the questions. And if not at the board meeting, at least a published answer within 48 hours of that, along with the minutes, making it a public portion of that, board meeting, an attachment alongside the board meetings, available on the district website. Those questions were submitted and they should be a public record as well. So supplying the answers to those would be a definite start in the right direction, at least to get that going. The issue of a public back and forth might lead to a scenario where one or both members would become disrespected in some cases, depending on the community member and some history with some members of the community. That's my only issue on that.
And I would just say, Dan, then that's incumbent on the board president to successfully facilitate that engagement, right? I mean, things can get crazy. I referenced hearing about some of those hours-long board meetings in other places, and many of them did get very heated, right? So I think there needs to be ground rules and an enforcement of how are we going to work with each other and how are we going to engage with each other, and that needs to be very strictly enforced.
Just for the record, I will have a meeting as long as a meeting needs to go, and everybody should have a chance to get heard. That's one of my big things. There was a meeting where the president stopped the meeting and he said, we went at the limit. These residents took time out of their day. They took time, maybe found a babysitter to go attend this meeting. And it's one meeting a month. So I do see a possibility of conflicts if we open it up and make it a, free for all, for all sake of arguments, where it's engaging different people, different topics. But if a meeting takes 2-3 hours, that's the least we could do for our community. The last thing we want to do is isolate or make that family member feel like they don't have a voice in Addison. That's not what we're here to do. And everybody else that shows up to those meetings, You can look it up. The superintendent isn't struggling for money. You know, he's making over 200K at base. He could afford to be there an extra hour or two longer than a meeting on a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night, whenever the meeting's held. So definitely we should be there.
And I'm gonna comment because I'm a former school board member, and I can tell you that there's two sides of this. One is as a board member, whenever we had our meeting, we walked out and I looked over, I saw nothing but teachers, and in some cases, some parents would show up, right, and submit their blue cards. So we definitely need to get the parents more involved. And I'm not saying that they don't want to be involved. I'm just saying we got to engage them and invite them in and encourage them to come in to ask those questions. There was a discussion we had, I think, a few days ago with some current board members, and we talked about some of the maybe opportunities, right, for improving the blue card process. One is, it works today as you submit it, you file it at 5 p.m. and you submit it, and maybe your question will be asked and answered, maybe not. It depends. I think they do a good job of trying to get to the questions, but they can't, in some cases, answer every question because it's not really relevant to what they're discussing at that moment. But I will say that there is an opportunity for us to go back and take the questions that are being asked on social media platforms like Facebook and other platforms where active board members are responding and saying, hey, here's the answer to your question. I think what we should do is be taking those questions back to a board meeting saying, hey, we had a community member ask this question and here was the response. It's sort of like making sure people feel comfortable that they're hearing the same message, right? For example, Chris, you might have a question that is probably the same question I got, but we're on two separate sides of town. I'm on the east side, the poor side, and you're on the rich side, the west side. Well, my point is that those individuals obviously have this probably same questions, and they should be brought up and brought to the forefront. I would like to do a report out of the questions as a board member and say, hey, we've had these 5 questions, and here was it responses, and here we're going to post it on the Addison School District Board website as a Q&A form. So there's a ton of opportunities for us to improve, and I think that's what we're all trying to encourage and lead in the right direction, make sure that there's improvement along the way. And that's why, as running for the school board, that's why Dan believes he's a better school board member than maybe some of the incumbents, and Chris was going to do a phenomenal job. So that is the whole purpose of why we're running a school.
All right, thank you all very much. We did not have any more questions in the chat. So that was actually exactly 1 hour. If there's anyone has any final comments to make, we just want to remind people that you can go out and vote now at the Addison Township building, and then April 6th, next Tuesday, is the official election day. So please get out and vote. Did anyone have any final comments they'd like to make?
I think we all do.
Okay, everybody, we'll start with Taso.
Yeah, so you're right. Early voting has started. I think we've been hanging out at the early voting place at the township. Incredible turnout, which is awesome. Everybody coming out saying we voted for you, which is great, but it's a very tight contested race. You have 3 incumbents that are running for re-election. They've got name recognition. The community recognizes them, and they have the top 3 spots on the ballot. The community has an opportunity to enforce change through the election process. They got to go out and vote, and we're really counting on their vote. We're counting on a turnout. I truly feel that we are the better option, and I shared that with the incumbents a couple days ago or last week, whenever it was. But I do feel that we're the better option. We will bring change, whether like it or not. We will bring change. We will put kids first. That's the main focus for each one of us. And I'm speaking for myself actually right now, but it is the focus for all of us, is putting kids first and making sure that our kids are back in the classrooms under safe conditions, wearing a mask. My kids wear masks all the time, so everybody else can wear a mask. But my point is that our kids are better served in the classroom versus e-learning. E-learning doesn't work. There's slight noise, kids get distracted. And I just don't think that's the best way for us to move forward as a country, because I think it's affecting every community across the country. So I look forward to your support, the Addison community that is, and ATA. I truly appreciate you guys working really hard, putting this together, especially with all the volunteers, which was incredible. It's amazing. We have election coming up on Tuesday. I feel it's going to be a great day for us. And I look forward to serving the community with our current 3 incumbents that aren't up for another 2 years, and with the rest of us, with Chris and Ed and Dan. Thank you.
All right, anybody else have any final words?
Yeah, I'll go. I just, and again, we've spoken so much. I feel there's so much more to say. I will say thank you to everyone for taking the time to join. Again, I do absolutely recognize some of the names and folks who've supported us. So thank you for continuing to stay engaged and learn more about what we have to say. For those of you who haven't met me or any of us before, again, thank you for joining. As Taso mentioned, this will be incredibly close for the reasons he mentioned, right? Top of the ballot, incumbents. And so if you feel like one or all of us are candidates who you really want to support, not just go out and vote, but just make sure that the folks in your network, your family and your friends, they know us too, and you're getting all of them out to vote as well. I think we have a pretty clear vision and a positive vision for what we want to do within the community. And we just need everyone's support to help us get to be able to actually affect that. So thank you.
I think Chris said it best, and Taso as well. Thank you guys all, members of the community, ATA, teachers, everyone. But definitely, now's the time to get your voice heard and vote for that change that we've all heard you all want, and we're that change. So load up your cars, your vans, everything. Go out for ice cream and stop by the local voting place and cast your votes. Take your friends. All right. Thanks.
I had to unmute myself here. So thank you everybody for coming out. It's been fun. It's been challenging. It's going to be a great day after election. I think we have extremely qualified candidates. And I think Taso said it best. There's a candidate that's not here. She's also running. And I'm stealing Taso's words here, but if there's something about something that I said or something that you don't like about the platform that I'm running on, please vote for Ellen, vote for Dan, vote for Chris, vote for Taso. We are facing a very, very big challenge ahead of us. Our current president has been at the school board for 22 years. I don't know about you guys, but the last couple of people that we had in politics stay along didn't end up doing a very good job. And it's hard to get a really good idea. It's hard to get new ideas in there when somebody's been on there, and then we have other board members that are not up for election that have been in there 16, 17 years. So I think this is a great start for change. And I'll just throw that out there. The goal is to get kids back to school, to get the teachers the tools they need to get started for the fall season. And regardless if I win or not, anybody sees this and you need assistance getting your kid back to school, you need help getting the masks, you need help paying their fines, reach out. Like I said, even if I lose this race and you need assistance, getting these kids to catch up on everything they missed is one of the most important things. So I think everybody that watches this, if you have a question, please come and ask me. I know we have board members that do not like asking questions. They want to come back and type a paragraph or 3 later after they Google the answer or ask somebody else for the right answer. You ask me and I will answer. If I don't know the answer, I will get you the answer at a later date. So thank you, everybody.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Once again, we will be sharing this on Facebook and uploading it to YouTube. So anyone that wasn't able to make it can view it. Otherwise, we're all finished for tonight. Thank you. Have a great night.
Thanks, everyone.